All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the June 8th iteration of the SMI Community Call. That's a note that we are governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. If you're unfamiliar with that, it's available on CNCF GitHub organization. Today, we have, well, first, let me go ahead and share my screen so people can see the agenda. That's useful. So today, we've got so far one discussion item to talk about, and I took my name off. It's it's my agenda item. We're going to be chatting about Gateway API adoption here for SMI. So this has been kind of one of the big kind of initiatives we've been talking about for the past couple of months. Tossed around some ideas of what integration should look like. I sent out a email thread last week, I believe, to several members of the service mesh community to kind of get a sense of what folks are thinking about as far as solving this or integrating Gateway API service meshes. SMI has historically been one of the foundational projects to explore what a common API for meshes looks like. And some of the Gateway API resources are actually have inspiration from SMI resources. So I think it makes a lot of sense to collaborate. I've gotten some private responses to that email thread. And Mike, I think you said you're planning on sending a response later this, Mike Morris, sorry, I got to distinguish between the mics here. Mike Morris, I think you said you're going to send a response to the to that thread sometime soon. But I think so far between my personal conversations as well as the responses that we've gotten in that thread, I think we are seeing a good bit of interest towards doing something here. We've got an open GitHub issue in the SMI spec repo about what it looks like to maybe integrate Gateway API with SMI, or kind of what that process would look like. And so well, I'll do that. I'm gonna pause here. Mike B, you mentioned you had some maybe had some thoughts and wanted to participate in the discussion. I'll pause here and kind of see if this is kind of in keeping with everybody's heard or understood.
Yeah, that's definitely what we were thinking. We're interested in collapsing them together for sure. Yeah, we have, I mean, just like a little background, we don't support SMI at the moment. We have an experimental Gateway API support. And yeah, one of the things we're working on is getting our policies in line with the policy attachment guidelines from Gateway API. So that's where we're at the moment.
Fantastic. Oh, hi, Liz.
Hi. Sorry, I'm joining a bit late and not at all on top of what's happening in this meeting, but I thought I'd at least swing by and say hello.
No, not a problem. We were just talking about SMI, Gateway API, integration, collaboration. Mike B here is from Kumo, and it was just kind of going through kind of where they are with Gateway API. For just to kind of give a quick summary of the background, SMI, we've been looking toward integrating with Gateway API for the past couple of months. We've got a GitHub issue talking about some possible flavors of integration. And I sent out an email thread last week from lots of folks. I think you were in that email, Liz. And so I think between what I've seen from my private conversations as well as the response we've gotten in those email threads, I think a good next step is to kind of write up a proposal for what a Gateway API, SMI, a set of, a transition document maybe, just to kind of get a good mental model of what this would look like, because it's really difficult to think about, okay, what about this resource and that resource, and what's going to happen here. A pause there and ask Liz if does that kind of catch you up? Are you understanding what's going on?
Yeah, I definitely have questions, but let me know when it's a good time to ask them, because it seems like there's, there might be other things you want to cover.
No, this was the only thing on our agenda today, and so this is a great time to ask questions.
Okay.
All the action stuff.
Wonderful. So as a bit of background, we have Cilium Service Mesh, which gives the kind of data plane implementation of Service Mesh. And the idea is that we can configure that through what we would consider to be control plane abstractions, of which SMI, actually from the community, we had a lot of interest in integrating with SMI. So we're very much at the kind of, okay, what does that mean? You know, we haven't done any work on that yet, other than acknowledging, okay, that sounds like an interesting direction that people are clearly interested in. I guess one question immediately is the Gateway API that I think already exists and SMI, is the idea that those will kind of merge and become one?
Yeah, great question. So that's what we're exploring. Gateway API and SMI both kind of have a similar purpose, similar goal of controlling traffic through a standard set of resources and APIs. And kind of what we on the SMI side have been discussing is, okay, we are looking at this from kind of the east-west service-to-service communication traffic. Gateway APIs really heavily focused on the ingress egress story. For the customer perspective and user perspective, it will be fantastic to have one set of APIs for all directions of networking, and figuring out what those integration points look like, what those patterns will look like. And so I've been in communication with some folks on the Gateway API side, and they are liking the sound of that. And so at this point, that was kind of what I was getting to. I think we're at the point where it might make sense to kind of write up a proposal of, here are the SMI resources, what the Gateway API has as policy attachments piece of the spec where SMI could kind of hook into or implement rather. So let's see what that looks like. Let's flesh this out. I think without no decisions have been made yet formally, but as far as are they going to merge into one, what I'll say is I think it makes a lot of sense for end users to have a single set of APIs, and whatever we can do to maybe try to get to that reality is better for the community overall. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yes. I guess my follow-up comment is that another API that people mentioned as like we'd really like an integration with is Gateway API. So yeah, and the one that we do currently have is Kubernetes Ingress, which is, in my mind is like a kind of precursor to Gateway API. So this all sort of hangs together.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Gateway API is basically the evolution that it was initially referred to as like Ingress v2 of the evolution of the Kubernetes Ingress API. And right now it has largely focused on north-south traffic due to like the nature of its Ingress origins, I guess. And just like the people and products that are currently involved in implementing that. But so I've been part of that. I'm working on console API gateway, but I've heard from other participants in that there's basically a lot of interest in expanding it to east-west and having like a single set of like config entities to describe like east-west traffic as well, and like policy attachment seems like a good place for some of the SMI stuff to potentially plug in. But yeah, it's largely unexplored due to just like the bandwidth and projects that have integrated it so far.
Yeah, and so I think the exciting thing to me is that this is something that's unexplored. Let's get some mesh people to explore it, right? People who are interested in this kind of thing. Let's get some folks to to explore what this integration looks like, and I think the community benefits from that overall. Any other questions before we move on? Cool. Okay, so Mike, I guess if you'll write and thank you for taking the notes. If you'll jot down as an action item, what I'll do then between now and maybe next meeting is write that proposal document, taking inspiration from our existing GitHub issue on Gateway API integration, and kind of maybe go through resource by resource, talk about what we've got, and then talk about what Gateway API currently has in its spec, and just explore, not make decisions, but explore what that integration point, what those integration points might look like for a unified set of resources. And I'll try to get that out soon. And I'll probably additionally, for that in that email thread, I'm looking to respond by the end of this week with a try to get some meeting times together for everybody to be aligned. Liz, is there anybody else in your organization like added to that email thread, by the way?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who's going to be owning this from a kind of, I'll say, product management perspective. So there will be, but I just don't know who it is yet. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So yeah, that's going to hopefully be the source of truth plan document for this particular initiative. And naturally, when I finish that proposal document, it will be out to everybody. And hopefully by then we'll have had a meeting, get everybody in one room. It's exciting. Any other questions or comments on this? I think I'm pretty much done at this point.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we're pretty agnostic to the interface. We just kind of need to know what to build. So yeah, really interested to see how the resources map going forward. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mike, all this might be, sorry. Any of all this sounding good to you?
Yeah, it does sound good. Just the idea of expanding Gateway to cover the East-West. And I'm kind of similar to Liz. I think we don't have an SMI implementation. We're not very attached to anything in SMI, but the idea of extending Gateway API sounds really appealing.
Fantastic. Well, I'll be following up with everybody on our established channels, and should hear from us shortly. Any other topics?
Thanks for reaching out on this as well. That was appreciated.
Yeah, not a problem. But yeah, that's all I've got on this topic. Are there any other topics before we close this out and give you 15 minutes back? All right. In that case, I will stop recording and stop sharing.